Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's ARG Weekly Hot Topic. If you're dealing with the tenant situation right now, stay tuned because today's topic specifically talks about some challenges that we're facing with tenant evictions this year for 2022. I'm Hector Aguilar
Ben, your agent,
of Aguilar Realty Group, brokered by
EXP Realty. Hello, everyone.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Once again, thanks for tuning in. Today's hot topic is one that we're personally dealing with right now in one of our transactions, and we thought it would be a good idea to share some challenges that we've been having with tenant evictions. Right, as
Yes.
you all know, since the pandemic started, our government saw it in their wisdom to put in place some tenant protections that were placed like to really honestly to help tenants during the situation that whether they lost their jobs during the COVID pandemic or they lost hours. Obviously, they knew that there was going to be a financial impact not only to employees, restaurant employees, service employees, but just employees across the board. So ideally, those particular protections were in place to help them stay in their homes and to provide them with protections and not be evicted. So
Hmm.
essentially, the concept of these programs was to protect the tenant.
Right.
Unfortunately, right, Ben. Unfortunately, the backside of that or the backlash of that is that landlords, in a sense, were kind of hung out to dry, right? And we all know that landlords have been struggling over these last 2 years, 2.5 years now, or kind of going on a 2.5 years. And even though they made some changes to the programs where landlords can go and then submit some applications to get assistance to recover some of those losses in terms of the rents that they weren't getting over the last 18 months to 24 months. They really haven't gotten, there's not very many landlords, pardon me, let me correct that haven't gotten their money. Some of them are still waiting for money. So,
Yeah.
you know, these tenant protections, again, were placed with a good sense of mind, but they
Yeah.
just financially have not helped landlords. So today we want to talk about that. Ben, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that we've been facing with some of our transactions. One of them, which is one of your transactions, and we've been in escrow now. How long, Ben?
We have been a year long in escrow,
Just
right, waiting
just
to
about a
close.
year long. You're right. We opened escrow with this particular buyer at the beginning of July, actually. So it was end of June, early July, and here in another 30 days, we'll be in this escrow. Believe it or not, a full year. And our
Yeah.
our clients, our buyers, Ben's buyers, have been really patient in terms of waiting for the tenants to be evicted. So we wanted to share that experience with you. But before we did that, I want to make sure that we cover like some information about eviction. So, what's the first question we're going to ask today, Ben?
Let's go ahead. So the first one would be who handles the eviction, and if anyone, since we're on live or if you're watching replay, feel free to comment and we'll read your question if you have any questions as well, right, Hector? And we'll
Absolutely.
to
I mean,
help
this
you
is
out.
this is definitely an interactive, weekly feed that we want to be interactive with you and supply, reply to any questions that you guys might have. So please go ahead
Yes.
and comment, and we'll get back to you if we don't answer during the live show. But we definitely want to bring topics that are relevant to you and that can help our clients as well. So
So the
to
first
answer your
one,
question,
who
who handles the
handles?
eviction, right?
Yes.
Well, traditionally, you don't want to work with you don't want to do number one, you don't want to do it yourself, right? Yeah,
Yes.
you might be thinking, I could do it myself. I can go and save some money. I can file it in the court. But really, as landlords, do you really want number one? Do you really know what you're doing when it comes to landlord eviction or tenant evictions? Most likely not. And number two, more importantly, in that, you don't want to risk getting your case thrown out because maybe you didn't dot an I or cross a T or you didn't do your proper paperwork and it took you 3, 6, 9 months to get your court date, so you don't want to take that risk. Believe me,
True.
you want to spend a little bit more money, and I get it, maybe you're trying to save some cash, maybe you don't have a whole lot of money, but please go to a professional, go to an eviction attorney or a professional eviction service, maybe a professional um, paralegal that does evictions, who's going to walk you through the process. They're going to make sure you have all the forms filled out properly. So when your court date comes, you have a high likelihood that you're going to get the decision from the judge that's favorable to you. So definitely,
True.
go to professionals.
And what a great to know. Also, we work with eviction company that some of you guys probably watched in the past weeks with Paulina at MT Eviction. So We'll definitely put it in our description here if you need to contact her. Okay.
Absolutely,
All
good
right.
point. But we actually recorded two previous episodes of the Wednesday Hot Topic with Paulina.
Yeah.
They're great. They're a great eviction service company. They're not attorneys themselves, but they work with attorneys. So if they need to partner with an attorney, they can definitely help you there. But you can find those two recordings on our YouTube page. Remember to like and comment on our YouTube as well. It helps us out
Please.
and it helps you out as well. Get some topics that are relevant to you. So number one
Awesome.
is always get a professional to handle your eviction to make sure it's done right.
Awesome. And so, Hector, what's the process of eviction in this case
So
then?
typically in a normal market, right,
Yeah.
you have a tenant in place, he starts making late payments, and then, he misses, let's say typically a landlord will give a tenant between 1 to 5 days grace period from when the rent is due. And if the rent isn't paid during that grace period, then the landlord would then proceed with what's called a notice to pay or be evicted, right? So it's a 3-day notice to pay. And once that notice is expired, then the landlord will then go to an attorney or go to an eviction service to kind of start the process. And they're going to fill out some documentation, some paperwork. There's going to be some court filing fees, and then they file that eviction process in the court. And that's how the process gets started, right? Sometimes some tenants may slightly be behind, and when they're delivered that 3-day notice to perform or quit, then they might be able to get back current with the landlord. But again, you want to make sure that if you do have some kind of challenge with your tenant, make sure that you're taking the right steps to start that eviction process, because you don't want to lose your case on a technicality. So that's kind of how the process of eviction starts.
Awesome. So now now it's all about what's going on with our client. It's sad, but I think it's we should share what we.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the
But
thing with our client, right? Like we said, we're coming upon a year that our buyer is under contract with the seller, and the property was tenant occupied. This particular tenant absolutely took advantage of the tenant protection laws that are in place right now because of COVID.
yeah,
But as a high percentage are, they've taken too much advantage of these protections, right?
yeah,
Ideally, these protections were there to make sure that they didn't get kicked out if they were good paying tenants, if they were affected by COVID. But many tenants, and I'm not saying all of them, but there's a good percentage of them that are taking advantage of the program. In this particular case, I really feel bad for the seller. They've been wanting to sell their property. As us representing the buyer, Ben and I did everything in terms of, our contingencies. We did the inspection within a certain time.
mm-hmm.
We negotiated requests for repairs in a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
We met our contingency in regards to our appraisal as well and our loan approval. But here's what happened. The tenant kind of dug in his heels and he said, you know what? I'm not moving. So again, because of the tenant protection laws, there wasn't much that we could do. So the seller had to start the legal procedure of eviction with an attorney.
And
And that process took a long time, right?
That took months, guys. Don't think it's overnight like we thought it might take like 2 months, so we extended the contract 2 months, and then it kept going. So just be aware of that.
Yeah. Typically in an eviction, you're looking to get settled within 2 months, maybe 4. I remember during the pandemic, many courts were down, and those cases got pushed back. And in the interim of those cases waiting to be presented in front of a judge, new cases started accumulating. So now they're really, really behind. Now you're getting a decision made between 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker, right? We got a notification that the eviction process already been processed after they get notice of what's called a notice of execution.
Wasn't it in January?
I want to say it was January, February, right?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? It basically means that the court has already awarded the decision for the landlord, and all they're waiting for is for the sheriff to go up, show up, knock on the door, and then get the tenant out.
Yeah.
Well, that took how much longer, Ben?
Another 3-4 months.
Another 3 or 4 months. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, they actually, the sheriff actually went to execute the eviction process or the eviction of that tenant around 17 days ago.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, they've been trying since like August, September of last year. It took them to like February, so that was 5 or 6 months before they got the court-ordered eviction. But then it took
Yeah.
an additional 2 or 3 months for the sheriff to show up at the door, knock, and get the tenant out, right? So it's been kind of a whirlwind of experience with regards to the tenant being evicted on this particular property.
Now,
Go ahead.
I was gonna just say, I know we didn't put it in our notes, but I think it's a good thing that you told me, with your past experience, how one challenge you have if you evict a tenant, they can leave the place messed up.
Worse.
Like
Oh, yeah.
yesterday we went and we're like, oh, we're hoping that they didn't do anything because, guys, just so you know, once they're escorted or evicted from the sheriff, now they have 15 days to come back and get their property, correct?
Right. Well, when we say their property, we mean like their personal property, like their
Personal
beds, their
property.
clothing, furniture, and
Yes.
they can't just go on their own. They have to actually make an appointment with the landlord and agree on a date and time so that the landlord or the owner of the property can give them access to the property for a short period of time so they can get all their personal items and then remove them, right? So they have 15 days from the time that the sheriff removed them from the property.
Yeah. And then
And
once you get...
And like Ben was saying, sometimes it could be a really bad situation. What do we mean by that? I was telling Ben, I was sharing with them that I've heard stories of, tenants breaking walls up, tenants pouring cement into the drains to clog up the drains.
Wow.
Tenants actually, breaking windows. So it's not an easy transition whatsoever. I know that the tenants are going through some emotional stuff. For sure, the sellers, man, they've been dealing with a lot. Yesterday we showed up at the property right for the appraisal, and what happened?
The locks, the scent. This is crazy. They cut the lock box, and
they cut the lockbox. Yeah,
they
took the keys. They took the keys, so we couldn't get into the property. We had to try and get the agent who's representing the seller to schedule a locksmith to go out there, and the locksmith, they can't do anything unless the owner is present to open the doors with their keys. So we had to long story short is we had to postpone our appraisal because our previous appraisal from last year expired. I don't know if you know this or not, Ben, but appraisals only have a shelf life of about 60 to 90 days from when they're completed. So again, how long are we in escrow now, Ben?
A year.
So that original appraisal expired months ago.
Yeah.
And here's the caveat is that we couldn't order a new appraisal because the tenant wasn't giving us access to the property. So we had to wait for the eviction to happen. We had to wait the additional 15 days for them to take out their personal items, and then we could schedule the appraiser to go out there. So she finally got out there this morning. We're hoping to have the appraisal back here within maybe the next 3 or 5 business days. And then once we have that, we'll be able to go to docs, get the clients to sign their loan documents, and hopefully close pretty quickly here. So, it's been an ordeal. And, I got to applaud, our clients, man. I really think that, had it been another buyer, I think they probably would have said, you know what, let's just cancel. But here's the thing is they knew they had a property that exactly fit their needs in the location they wanted, in the budget that they wanted.
Correct.
And they just had to be patient. And, kudos to them because, it took several conversations. Hey, it's going to be okay. Oh, I'm losing my patience. I want to move in and we get it. But, and we started actually, Ben, we started showing them properties, right? Like after 3 or 4
we did.
This isn't going to happen. Let's start showing them properties. But we always kept, we kept their contract open because here's another thing that most people don't know is sellers really can't cancel on you once you remove your contingencies.
Oh, okay.
So, the only way you can that a seller can get out of a contract is 2 ways. Number one is if the buyer cancels a contract and says, okay, Mr. Seller, you know what? Unfortunately, I can't wait for you anymore. I'm going to cancel my contract with you. And then the seller can take his contract and then maybe find another buyer and negotiate it. But before then, he can't. Or he can breach the contract. A seller can breach the contract. But here's the thing is if the seller breaches a contract, the buyer can actually sue the seller. And in court, the court will award the buyer the property to close, and they'll actually cite the quote that's called specific performance. And what does that mean? That basically means that the buyer met every required necessity of their contract in order to close a transaction and did not breach their contract. So therefore, the court is going to award that this sale be consummated. And here's the thing: is that the seller or the loser of that case has to pay also the attorney fees. So honestly, I don't really think that many sellers do take that route because of that. But again, the only way that a seller can actually get out of a contract is if a buyer lets them out by canceling their agreement with them. So,
well, that's good to know, because again, like, this is not really in anyone's choice. I mean, no one wants to wait this long. I mean, I've never been in any transaction, and I'm sure, have you been longer than a year?
I have not. This is going to be a first for me, honestly. I've had,
And
you
same
know,
with seller's agent. It's crazy.
typically a seller transaction or a purchase transaction could take anywhere between 30, maybe 45 days. I've had some escrows because of, unforeseen circumstances going maybe 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
But truly, a year, this is a record for me, right? But it's understandable. We face new uncertainties, right? We face tenant restrictions, tenant protections that were placed against landlords in terms of evicting. And here's one more thing now that I just remembered. There's a window of opportunity for some landlords to evict their tenants. And we spoke about it with Paulina last month.
Oh, that's right.
And I think it was early April, because it was April, May, June.
I thought it was end of May. No?
I think it was at the end of April, because it was April, May, June, and landlords have until June 30th to get their cases in front of a court to be awarded. Otherwise, and that was done through a Senate bill that passed recently. I want to say it passed in mid-March, and it gave that 90-day window of opportunity for tenants to be removed from landlords' properties.
But only in Los Angeles County.
And only in Los Angeles County, and that's actually going to expire at the end of June 30th. So if you didn't get your process completed before that date, then you're going to have to wait. Now, the current tenant restriction moratoriums are in place through the end of 2022. All of us in the industry, homeowners included, I'm sure, landlords are included, I'm sure, are hoping that those restrictions do not get extended. It's hard to say whether they're going to be extended or not, but this is a reality, and this is what we have to deal with. So if you do have an opportunity to evict your tenant, reach out to us if you want to touch base with our tenant eviction partner, with Paulina at MT Evictions. They are incredibly good. If you also need an attorney, we also have an eviction attorney you can work with that have had a great experience with. They're located in Glendora. They're a local attorney, so they can help you with that. But yeah, this has probably been the longest escrow that I've ever had. Honestly.
Oh man, wow.
Well, here's the good news. Go ahead.
No, I just want to. We want to say thank you to all the likes and hearts we got from Roy, my boy Roy, Sarah, and we have Selena and Bernardo. Thank you for giving us hearts and likes. It really does help the algorithm and to get this great information that I think a lot of people can benefit from, agents or non-agents. So we don't wish any challenges upon anyone, and I hope you guys can learn from our experience. So
yeah, absolutely. I think many landlords out there that have single family residence properties that maybe 2 or 3. The average number of properties that an investor has is typically between 3 and 5. So if you're a landlord, if you're a homeowner that has tenants in place and you're thinking about selling, but you need some help, look, we realize it's a challenge. You shouldn't take it upon yourself, number one, to sell on your own, number two, to do an eviction on your own. Let us help you. We'd love to kind of sit with you, talk to you about some strategies, maybe introduce you to some of our eviction partners that can kind of guide you. There's a small consultation fee, but it's worth it. Let me tell you, it's worth it. It'll give you at least some steps to take to get you in the right direction. So if you do want to sell, that we can help you do that.
Awesome.
We really appreciate you spending some time with us. Again, this is the Wednesday hot topic of the week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you know someone that could use this information, please share it. You can find it on our Facebook page, on our Facebook profiles. You can also find us on our YouTube channel. Once again, I'm Hector Aguilar, along with
Ben, your agent
with Aguilar Realty Group. We'll talk to you next week, guys. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.